Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. DK Metcalf still doesn't solve Steelers' quarterback conundrum. While the Pittsburgh Steelers are set to trade for stud DK Metcalf, it doesn't ultimately solve their problem. Not only do they lack a franchise quarterback, they don't even have a starting capable one. As I write this, there is only one quarterback under contract for 2025 in Skylar Thompson. They will, of course, add a starter very soon, but are any of them the answer to their problem? For months now, the Steelers have discussed re-signing either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. They have also left the door open for all options, however, and perhaps Sam Darnold is one of them. Even if they make that move, though, do Darnold and Metcalf turn the Steelers into a championship offense? Ultimately, it doesn't matter, because a fatalistic approach is useless. You don't second-guess yourself into inactivity, fearing that no matter what you do, it won't work. The Steelers have games to play, and they need somebody to throw to Metcalf and George Pickens. That is, of course, assuming they don't turn around and trade Pickens now. The Steelers have lacked a franchise quarterback since the days of Ben Roethlisberger, and even then, the timeline is debatable. Perhaps the last point of consensus was, perhaps, 2018, with Roethlisberger suffering a major injury in 2019. He was never quite the same after that. Russell Wilson was the closest thing they have had to one since then, but is that saying much? Now, if the Steelers acquire DK Metcalf and retain George Pickens, paired with Pat Freiermuth and a restocked backfield, they would be giving whoever their quarterback is arguably their best complement of weapons since 2018 at least. At the time, they had both Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster in the Pro Bowl, plus James Conner and others. But ultimately, it comes down to quarterback play, not wide receiver play. Are any of the options attractive enough to raise hopes of something more than a one-and-done? Steelers fans want to greet the Metcalf news with excitement, but is Justin Fields exciting? Are Sam Darnold or Aaron Rodgers exciting, at least circa 2025? And on top of that, this isn't even a good year to need a rookie quarterback. A year after 6 teams drafted a quarterback in the top 12 picks, we may see only one in 2025. Cam Ward could go first overall, and it wouldn't be a total shock if another quarterback wasn't taken until the next day. The farther they fall, of course, the more tempted the Steelers would be to take one, especially perhaps a Jackson Dart. The way quarterback stocks tend to rise, though, they would probably need to take him in the first round. So the Steelers have a shiny new wide receiver in DK Metcalf, but now quarterback to throw to him. And teams in this situation who aren't drafting early are rarely in a position to improve their fortunes much. The good news is they will have Metcalf for the next 5 years. The bad news is they are going on 4 years without a credible starting quarterback. Tim Benz, how I want the Steelers' dominoes to fall after landing DK Metcalf. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers' decision to trade for Seattle Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf. It may be costing them a lot of money, a 4-year, $132 million extension on top of $18 million this year, but it only cost them a second-round draft pick. That's a second-round draft pick they may have been planning to use on a wide receiver anyway. Given the new addition of Metcalf, here's how I hope the dominoes fall for the Steelers in the next few days. Wish Justin Fields good luck with his next team. I don't think the Steelers brought a $33 million per year receiver on board to have Justin Fields throw him the ball. He's not an accomplished enough passer. I think this means Minnesota's Sam Darnold or Russell Wilson will be the quarterback. Hopefully, it is Darnold. The Athletic is reporting that he'll be getting a contract offer from the Steelers soon. Seattle is the other team most frequently mentioned with Darnold. Maybe grabbing Metcalf from the Seahawks was a preemptive strike. Then again, Wilson and Metcalf have a good relationship going back to their playing days together in Seattle, as do Wilson's wife, Sierra, and Metcalf's girlfriend, Normani. They are both pop music singers, and all four were recently photographed together. Metcalf had 3,170 yards and 29 touchdowns during his first 3 years in Seattle while Wilson was still the QB there. Trade George Pickens. Some see visions of a two-headed monster of Metcalf and George Pickens on the outside. That is very intriguing. Here's something else I can see, a race between the two receivers to see who gets the most penalties for fighting with defensive players and grabbing their face masks. These are two pretty combustible guys we are talking about. That's a lot to manage in game. The Steelers don't complete a lot of passes, regardless of who is playing quarterback. Trying to keep those two happy in an Arthur Smith offense will be a chore. Meanwhile, here's what I can't see, a world in which the Steelers are paying both Pickens and Metcalf $30 million apiece. That's what Pickens is going to want on his extension this summer. That's what Metcalf just got. I was on board with trading Pickens before Metcalf was acquired. I really am now. Trade Pickens for a second-round pick to replace the one that was lost in the Metcalf deal. Use that pick to get another wide receiver in the draft. Or use the first-rounder on a receiver and get a defensive lineman in the second round. Does DK Metcalf trade make Steelers more likely to look outside at Sam Darnold? The Steelers reportedly intend to trade for DK Metcalf and make an offer for QB Sam Darnold. These were the two major news stories tied to the team that came out yesterday, on the eve of the legal tampering period. While they can't officially make either move until the new league year, the coincidental timing is curious. The organization is in a tough place, desperate to do anything necessary to win a playoff game. Sam Darnold played in his first playoff game last year and lost, and the Steelers have a weaker roster than the Vikings, arguably, though DK Metcalf makes it much stronger. Given all the hemming and hawing with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, one has to wonder the cause for delay. Is it because the Steelers really see their best option outside, like Sam Darnold? They had these quarterbacks last year and wanted to run a run-first offense. If the Steelers have DK Metcalf and George Pickens and Roman Wilson to throw to, does that make them more tempted to opt for Sam Darnold over Wilson or Fields? While Fields has some currency entering free agency, that's still based largely on potential and upside, less on actual production. Sure, he rushed for 5 touchdowns in 2024. But he also threw only for 5 touchdowns and 184 yards per game. If the Steelers sign Darnold, they're getting someone who averaged over 250 yards per game with 35 touchdowns. The other option, of course, is Russell Wilson, who played with DK Metcalf in Seattle. The two even worked out together multiple times last offseason, and worked well together. I don't know that re-signing Russ turns this isn't a high-powered passing offense, though. And we don't know why the plan is with George Pickens either. Did the Steelers trade for DK Metcalf because it makes it easier to move on from Pickens? Or do the Steelers want Metcalf to add to Pickens and a quarterback like Sam Darnold who can ramp up the passing game? And you, fan? What do you think about Sam Darnold's situation? Write to us in the comments.